Morning everyone, my name is Tebs Rashid. I'm currently the Deputy Chief Executive of BTEG, Black Training Enterprise Group. We're a national race equality charity. We've been operational for 30 years, in fact this year. I'm really looking forward to recognising the work we've done over the years. Initially we were doing almost everything for everyone, but around 2008, at the point of major austerity in the country, we were left to feel quite vulnerable, not just us, but the sector as a whole, to really think about, well, who are we? How are we going to survive? What do we want to be known for? So at that point, we had to take a step back and reflect and really evidence ourselves in terms of what is the core, what are the core issues that we want to be known for. And we focused on three core areas, which is what we stand by at the moment. And they are criminal justice, education, and employment. And within that, primarily focusing on supporting young BAME communities. We hope, of course, continue to provide capacity building to smaller organisations working in those core areas as well. But that period of time was a real reflection for us as a sector, for us as an organisation, and continuing in that field. And I've been working in the voluntary sector for 30 years. I'm constantly reflecting on, well, what is it that we've had to do? What is it that funders can do to support us to survive moving forward? This last year has been kind of a real eye-opener for all of us, and it's been really encouraging to see funders working together, collaborating, joint programs. So on reflection of the last year, but also the 30 years I've worked in the sector, I've got 8 core messages I think I want to get across to funders. So the first one, which I think will resonate quite strongly with a lot of organisations, is that provision of flexible funding that supports core costs as well as project funding. So the flexibility and the trust in us to know what we need and why we need it to deliver, to be able to allocate to core costs. We always have that deficit of not being able to have overarching core roles within an organisation that needs us to survive, but also grow. Core leadership roles, core IT roles, core marketing roles, we're always in that deficit. Second point is around simplifying application process, which includes opportunities with conversation with applicants and submission of videos, for example. So the turnaround time is one thing. I think that's really important to think about quick turnaround times, because some of the issues we're working with are the here and now, not something 8 months, 10 months later. So we need to think about the turnaround times, but also the simplified application for process. Linked to that, allowing us to articulate our intersectionality issues and the messages we want to get across through more creative ways. Point 3, I think, is about maintaining culturally aware and empathetic staff. It's important funders have that understanding of the cultural nuances, the narratives that we're up against, the cultural needs within our specialisms. Funders also need to think about what lens they're looking at reserves and assets from. As much as I respect and understand the need to do that, funders need that reassurance around sustainability and survival of projects and organisations, at the same time to really recognise that small organisations really struggle to build a reserve, and even more so now in this last year when we've had to dip into our reserves, and it will take time to rebuild them in the short term. So just a reflection on what that means in the current climate. Number 5, BAME organisations, Black, Asian, minoritized ethnic community organisations, have been struggling to be recognised as specialist organisations, partly because of the political push and the agendas a decade ago, but also just the funding not being there for specialist areas. I think the recognition needs to be there, and it has been in this last year. Specialist organisations like Race Equality Leads, women's-led organisations have suddenly started being recognised for their specialisms, and I think this needs to be put back on the table and be much more conscious of it. I think I kind of mentioned this before, but specialist organisations need to be able to demonstrate their experiences. BTEG needs to be able to demonstrate what we do in a much more creative and fluid way. We want to be able to articulate what we do beyond a piece of paper, and sometimes we can't get that message across. Intersectionality is such a key part of what we do and how we deliver, but how do we get that across if the funders are only looking at single issues and silo issues? We need to revisit the question of exit strategy and what that actually means. What happens when the funding runs out? That puts pressure on any organisation in terms of what happens after 2 years, 3 years. That's not good for us, and that's not good for funders in terms of that legacy, in terms of sustainability. So can funders work together more to continue some of the projects? The issues don't go away in a year or 2 years. So can we have that conversation? And I think the last point is around longer term funding, definitely, but also non-financial support. I think the recognition by many funders already over the years, but ourselves in the sector, that we need the non-financial support as much as the money to build our capacity, to build our infrastructure, to be on top of the game when it comes to IT, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to visibility and messaging. So we're always applauding those funders that have provided non-financial support, but we could definitely do more of that, with more of that. I hope some of these messages resonate and can be put onto the table for further discussions. Thank you.